Hello and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast. Can I actually say it's Monday, 4th of August, and I'm super excited to have Oli Johnson on the show all the way from London. And it's first thing Monday morning, well, not first thing, but it's like what, quarter past 9:15 a.m. Oli in London, right?
Yes, it is 9:15 at the moment, B. So yeah, very pleased to be here, feeling fresh after the weekend.
Did you have a nice weekend?
Yeah, it was nice. Bit of family time. We're only visiting London, so yeah, trying to get some time to see people, friends and family and whatnot. And yeah, it's been a nice change.
Yeah, cool. Because you're based generally in Spain, right?
Yes, yeah, we moved from London to Ibiza in Spain about 8 years ago. So yeah, we just come back every now and again to visit the family.
Wow, I've never been to Ibiza. I've always wanted to, but and you've got my favorite flower behind you, so that brightens up my day too. The sunflower, it's the beauty.
Yes, we have some real real sunflowers behind. Yeah.
Real. Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. But I am so excited to talk about your business and your journey because we have a lot in common, and it'll be good to just chat about it and share what I don't think still a lot of people actually talk about in terms of that whole burnout and what does it look like from the inside out and then the outside in, and your lived experience is what has enabled you to then start your own business as co-founder of Prescribe Life, which is a health tech company, AI, fully driven by AI as well not fully, but do you know what I mean, where you work with individuals or you support individuals, teams and organizations to boost their performance through science-backed, personalized protocols for mental fitness, burnout prevention, and resilience. Or what I like to call, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, is it's not my term, but anti-fragility in terms of how do we continue to bounce forward. So we're not constantly having setbacks of burning out, but then we're able to get ourselves into a position where we can keep to bounce forward. So you've got a background, obviously, in leadership coaching, neuroscience, and startup growth. So from what I understand, you've previously had another business that you scaled and sold, and you work at the intersection of health and performance, and they're so important, the two of them, aren't they? Like we've become a society of where it's just been hustle, 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 performance, 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 which resulted in you burning out, me burning out, and it's not sustainable. And so how do you sustain it? How do you sustain that at health and performance? And you're known apparently for asking the hard questions as well. So I think he said, are you building a culture you actually want to work in? So I'm going to hand it over to you, but tell us a bit about your journey and how you can prescribe life, and yeah, tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, sure. So that I mean that culture point and the are you building a culture that you want to work in? To me, is such an important question, and it has a real personal resonation for me because I have to put my hands up to being guilty of having built a business that didn't have a culture that I was proud to work in, and I'm very intentionally building this business with having a very different culture that I do want to work in, and that's something I'm deeply passionate about. I think it's very, very important. So I guess high level, I had about 20 years working in financial services, primarily investment banking, some asset management. I spent about 3 years at the Bank of England as well. So yeah, I had that sort of longish career there. And then towards the end of that, it was always within technology and always within cyber, actually. And I formed a cyber tech business towards the end of that. And it was actually on paper, it was a very good business. We had lots of very fast growth. We grew the team to 30 within the space of a year or so. We had
Wow.
some fantastic top tier financial service clients. And on paper, from I think the phrase you used was, from the outside looking in. From the outside looking in, life was, fantastic. And if someone had told me a few years before that you'd have this high growth business, you'd have this, fast growing team, you'd have this amazing revenue, personal income would grow to this level, I would have been, dancing on the ceiling, basically. Would have been so happy. But the reality of living that was a completely different experience. And it got so painful and so difficult that even though all of my, hopes and dreams were coming to reality, and at the same time, I was living in Ibiza, I had this beautiful Paradise Island as home and a lovely, lovely villa and a pool and all the kind of stuff that you'd look from the outside and go, oh wow, this has made it.
Made it.
And
Hit your
yeah,
success.
made it. Yeah, I had a beautiful young family, everything that I wanted. And yeah, I was so deeply unhappy. And, when I look back, I was working these crazy hours, 80, 90-hour weeks, lots of friction with clients, friction with co-founders, with workers. It was so high intensity, such high intensity. And all the good stuff that I would do to keep myself sane and well fell by the wayside. So, family connection, the friends connection, connection to self, meditation, exercise, healthy eating, sleep, all of these things are totally foundational to your health as an
Yeah.
individual and then directly relational to the health of the business as well. Everything fell by the wayside. But what happened with me was there were a few specific markers on the way that led me to have this full realization that something was totally, totally amiss. And I'll just highlight two, if I may. So
Yeah, go for it.
one, I'll be honest, having that business, we were very commercially minded and commercially driven. We were then there to make money. It wasn't a passion project of mine. And, we had this particular month where we'd already been doing very well in terms of revenue. And then we had this new project drop in. And, my personal income that month was, if someone told me 5 years before, that would be 1 month on top of everything else. I would have been so excited. And this particular month, it came in and it was like this tiny blip on my radar. It didn't even register. And it really made me sit up and go, God, like I don't have this drive anymore. I've got this apathy, even when the ultimate thing I was looking for, like making this money is happening. And I just don't, it's not registering with me anymore. I don't care about it. And so it was a really interesting sign for me and got on my radar. And then about a month after that, I've been flying for business. I was flying back to London and I had this 5 days of hell lined up where it was just back-to-back client meetings. I had a board meeting, I had a like co-founder meeting, and I was filming for some content we were doing as well. And I was just dreading it. And I was looking out of the window and I just remember thinking, do you know, if this plane crashed right now and I just went into the sea, I wouldn't care. I felt complete, like not actively suicidal, but I
No.
honestly felt life is just so overwhelming. I would probably rather that happen than this 5 days that's ahead of me. And if your warning signals aren't going off when you feel like that, when you've got, again, from the outside looking in, everything on paper, it's something you just have to sit up and take notice of. And that for me was the start of, right, I need to change things. And changing for me was, sell out, get out of the business, finish off. And that started that step for me. That was beginning for me of recovery. It was a long road, but that's what that looked like for me.
Yeah, I totally empathize with that feeling of just utter overwhelm where you wake up and you're like, I don't even know how I'm going to get through today. And then just thinking about being on a plane, I've had not a plane as such, but just I remember once I was in a shopping center or shopping mall, whatever you call it, and I was just like meant to be. I didn't even know what I was doing, but I was in a haze. I was just like, I don't even know what I am, who I am, and I should be on top of the world right now, but I'm just not. And it was like the weirdest feeling in terms of exactly what you're saying, because you're just like, something's got to change. But I don't know about you, but you know that it's like something my soul was kind of screaming out to me. It was getting louder and louder and louder. And I was pushing it down further and further and further. But then I remember vividly, probably like your plane situation, where I was in the shopping center and I was like, oh, this is just like, I couldn't breathe. I was just like, this is just, something's got to change. But then I don't know about you, but I didn't know where to start. So, and you were telling me you had a leadership coach, a business coach, therapist, all that sort of stuff. But there was only so much probably they could do as well, right? Because I had the same. I had all that going on and they were working with me, but they could only work with me to a point until I finally went, okay, there's a lot of work here that I actually have to do myself. And that's that whole, from the outside in, everything looks great, but from the inside out, it's not at all great.
Yeah, I totally recognize that. And it's interesting because I always advise people, like if there are leaders listening, if there's startup founders listening, I absolutely advise people to have those kind of people in your camp, people you're speaking with, like having a business mentor, having a
100%.
leader who, 5, 10, 15 steps in front of you. I think that's so valuable. And, having a therapist is really valuable as well. But the thing you have to do is listen to them. So, if somebody is telling you this is how you're showing up and this is what's going to happen, one thing that sticks in my mind is for that business, we very intentionally had a 5 year build and sell plan, at least to have the asset that's sellable at the end of those 5 years,
Mm.
which I think is a very sensible thing to do. I'd advise any business owner to have an exit strategy, have a plan, know what you're focusing on. And we were driving towards that 5 year plan, but how that manifested for me was I had this mentality of it's just 5 years, it's 5 years, it's 5 years, keep going, it's 5 years, stay focused. So in my mind, 5 years doing 80, 90 hour weeks seemed kind of manageable. I thought, you know what, I can get through this. I can make this happen. Like we're making this great progress. I've got these results coming back. It's working. But my mentor was saying to me, look, he'd been there and done it. He'd executed a 5 year plan. And he just said, you're not going to make it if you carry like this. You have to celebrate the wins as you go. Don't have the 5 year goal as the big ta-da at the end. Every time you get a new client, every time you make a key hire, every time you hit a revenue goal, celebrate all of these, and all of these are milestones as you go. But I had this kind of, I guess it's a bit of arrogance, if I'm being honest, and a bit of naivety, those two things together of like, no, I'm young, I'm strong, I'm fit, I'm going to be fine. And I totally wasn't fine. And I really regret not paying more heed to that advice that I was getting and paying for as well, to be frank.
Yeah, it's interesting you say regret. I mean, for me, I don't have regrets. I think that you're doing the best you can with what you've got right at the time. And so for me, it's more around, and I have the same thing. And I believe everyone should have a leadership coach or a business mentor if you're in business, whether it's your own business or whether you're a senior exec leader. It's just so important from that objective perspective to call you on your own shit, if you like, or your own stuff. Like you need it, right? You need that sense check. But in terms of what you just talked about with regret, I could say the same thing. But for me, I was doing the best I could with at the time with what I had in terms of I wasn't ready to go inside and do the work that had to be done at that point in time. And I think that for everyone, they have their own journey, right? And this is what I talk to a lot of my clients about, and I'm sure you're the same. And so you've got to be ready. And so it's only when you're ready that you'll actually do the work. Because if you had attempted to do it earlier, you wouldn't have been ready, and you wouldn't have then ended up probably creating this amazing business that you've got now, Prescribed Life, and being the person that you are now. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Like that's just a
Yeah.
different
No,
I have
do
on
you
it.
know, I love that framing there. I absolutely love it. And it's something I've been thinking about a lot recently. And where I am right now with this business, like it's purpose driven and it comes from a place of real passion, having, been through that burnout and recovering. And now, with a tech solution, a scalable tech solution, helping people just like me and having been through it. So when I have those conversations, and particularly, we work with um, coaches of high performers. So, whether it's exec coaches or burnout recovery specialists or founder coaches, all of those kind of people who are working with those individuals who I was one of, being able to help that many people,
Mm.
that to me has brought massive purpose to my life. And, I described before the previous business being very much a commercially driven business. And, obviously I'm still a commercially minded person, but the root of it is the kind of the passion behind it and wanting to do good, doing something with impact. And so, yeah, I'm actually in a much better position than I was in now. So, yeah, you called me perfectly there because it's not really regret because I wouldn't be where I am right now.
No.
Instead, I could still be in a business that I hated and, I'd be miserable and maybe I wouldn't be so burnt out, but I still wouldn't be very happy about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that learning you get from that as well. One of the key things, again, but you mentioned it at the beginning of our conversation was the culture. Like, are you building a culture that you want to work in? And
Mm.
100% I wasn't. And you have to remember as a leader, really, what is it that you're building? Like, what would the people in your team say about your leadership when you're not in the room?
Mm.
And right now, I can be pretty proud, I think, of what I'm doing as a leader. Whereas when I look back, we created a hustle burnout culture,
So
which
did I.
into the whole team. Yeah, we were just like, I didn't care about sending, WhatsApp messages on Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday, all hours. It didn't matter. We just used to anything to get things done, anything to be client focused, anything to get results. And we were burning out that team. And, I really, it's something I look back on. It's something I'm not proud of. And, having
No.
learned that, building in a very different way now.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I thought that I was had a really good culture. I'm a people person. You seem exactly the same. You lead for your people. But what I what I realized was I was epitomizing what burnout was and what it was because I was working like a maniac, the rest of the team, like because I was such a high performer. It's like that addictive, like go, 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 whatever it takes sort of thing. As much as I was, all about the people, that wasn't demonstrating to a business or an organization that this is conducive to, thriving and sustained performance as such. It was just showing. And people used to say to me, and they probably used to say it to you, how I love, you're amazing. Look at you. Look at what you can do. Look what you can achieve. Like, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. And I look back now and I'm like, yeah, I don't know how I did it. Like even days now where I do it, like can get through a lot because I still can, but you just go, oh no, that was just mental what I was able to do in a day and just get up and do it again the next day. And that's not the sort of culture that you is like it's not the culture of the future if you ask me. It's not the culture of the new world. And it's interesting you talked about commercials and I don't know you, but I've been doing a bit of research on this and there's some great books from, the 90s. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, he's got, I don't know if you read the book, but it's Good Business. And he does there's this whole equation in there around profit and performance and happiness in the business. And we're so focused still on this commercial drive, 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 but yet you have these disengaged teams, you have this disengaged culture. The leaders are under so much pressure to hit their margins, hit their numbers. And everyone's just constantly chasing their tail. And yet, if we were able to flip it where profitability and commercials are still super important, but it will follow if you've got the right culture and the right team and leaders, performing in a way that is sustainable. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I just think we need to flip that as well as part of the new world order. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's just something in me that,
I totally agree. And I think we talked around the leadership setting the tone. And, my view as, a CEO, I haven't got a big team now. I'm leading this, I think it's 10 of us right now. We're growing, but yeah, we're at 10 at the moment. And for me, how I'm showing up and what my diary looks like and that efficiency and that approach, it's so important to have, what I'd call like white space in terms of diary, thinking time, strategy time. And when I think of, how I'd worked previously, where, 8 hours of Zoom calls and then maybe like half hour for lunch and then another like, 6 hours of calls and then all the other work has to fit in. There's no time to think about anything. There's no time to be strategic. There's no time to consider where you are and where you're going. And if you don't leave that white space, like how can you expect to have the breathing space to understand the big picture? And if you're leading and you can't see the big picture and keep, you need a North Star, you need to know where you're
mm,
going. That is so much more valuable than all of these lower value tasks. So that to me is absolutely critical, ensuring that you're able to operate at the right level.
100%. Yeah, white space non-time. Like it's almost like what's that non-time that you don't, it allows you to do what you need to do and not have all that pressure as well. So tell us I want to know about how you came up with this name, Prescribe Life. It's the brand in me. But tell us a little bit about Prescribe Life in terms of you've burnt out, you've decided you can't keep doing what you were doing. And then how did you then come to Prescribe Life?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, absolutely, the genesis was from my own burnout for sure. And during my recovery period, I got really interested in the concept of burnout when I started to get a bit better, and I just couldn't believe how common it was. And the more people I spoke with, the more I realized it's just it's everywhere. And interestingly, just before, well, just around that time, the World Health Organization and the World Economic Forum published their first study on burnout globally, and every year there's $1 trillion impact to the global economy from mental ill health, and burnout contributes a huge amount of that. So I've got something which I'm kind of rather grandiosely calling the resilience gap theory. So there's this $1 trillion impact to the global economy, and there's a $60 billion corporate wellness industry. So all of that money being spent, and still there's this giant impact. So obviously there's a lot of things that aren't working. And, let's be honest, there's a lot of meditation apps out there. There's a lot of things where
Yeah.
purporting to help, but, they're not being used, they're not being taken up, and there's no real impact. So we spent about a year, the first year of Prescribe Life, and Prescribe Life, because not prescribing medication, obviously there are things you can do to treat. My co-founder is a medical doctor and a psychiatrist, and for her, one of the key things, she hates prescribing medication. It's such a short-term
Mm.
sticky plot.
Transactional, yeah.
Yeah, we're all about, root cause. What's the root of the
Yeah.
problem? Oh, here's an anti-anxiety medication. Go and take that and become addicted, and then, feel like shit in 2 years' time. Like, that is not what we're about. So Prescribe Life was the genesis of that. We spent around a year speaking to lots of different people. We spoke to lots of venture capital firms who had, startup founders where there was concern around founders burning out. We did a lot of founder kind of like health retreats, understanding programs, and just getting to understand the problem. One of the biggest things we came across was that the lack of anything that's measurable. So looking at coaches like leadership coaches, founder coaches, oftentimes they'd have this great program and they take people from burnout to recovery, or they'd be working with CEOs and they'd have like a 12-week program. And one thing that was really missing was being able to make it measurable. A lot of it
Mm.
is that habit change. Like, are you actually able to change that habit? Are you sticking with it? And then what does that mean on, on a sometimes a genetic level and a physiological level? So, one of the things we can do is we can measure key biomarkers. So, I'm sure you're familiar with HRV, heart rate variability,
Yeah.
as a key of your ability to deal with stress, for instance. And that's an indicator that you can change. You can change with the right programs, the right coaching, the right behaviors. You can improve that over time. So making that measurable is something that we can do, along with a whole load of other biomarkers as well. So from a coaching perspective, it's a very powerful thing to have. And the other thing that we do as well in terms of medical technology, we do genetic testing specifically for resilience. So, you can look at your own genetic profile and things like your neural pathways. You can actually see how you're wired. And then using AI, we can very precisely give you protocols in order to literally help you directly with your own genetic profile. Just to try and bring that to life, I using this on myself has been completely transformative. So my baseline from my neural pathways, my genetic makeup, I'm very much prone to anxiety. It's something that I recognize in myself. And there's a couple of specific neuro supplements that I now take as part of a protocol, which genuinely have been life-changing.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing in terms of sleep, focus, performance, and anxiety underlying all of that. Taking this protocol has been completely transformative for
Game
me.
changer.
Yeah, so I've taken God knows how many supplements and vitamins in the past. And the pathway is always buy them, take them for a month, don't see any change, and then they stick on the shelf until I throw them away. And with this, it's completely different. I am 100% every single day, and it's completely changed my life. There's just a couple of aspects there of how we can help individuals, and particularly working with those coaches of high performers. Yeah, it's technology has changed so much now, and the key thing for us, preventative medicine, doing things before they happen, preventing someone burning out, understanding it beforehand, that is the way of the future. It's what AI is unlocking
Yeah,
so profoundly.
100%. Could
So
not,
we use
could not
AI
agree
right
more.
across gone.
No, I was about to say I could not agree more. I interrupted you. The preventative versus just this reactive and oh shit, this has happened now. We better do something about it.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where like what you're doing and building it is preventative, right? That's what it's all about. How do we get that happening from a societal perspective in business, in life, in everything, because we have become so reactive and just the pace of the world right now. I caught up with someone for coffee today and we were just even talking about the busyness of everybody and just this non-responsiveness, and it's like what's happened, like, but it's just the way we are. And there's even like, so how do we stop that? How do we prevent that from becoming the norm?
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, the rate of change is incredible. And I can't imagine you'll speak to many people who wouldn't pinpoint AI as something that is accelerating things at an incredibly rapid pace. But in terms of, health tech particularly, it's been very interesting. And this year, so we raised a pre-seed round, and we're going to do our seed round coming up towards the end of this year. And it's really interesting because AI in health tech has absolutely boomed in terms of
Mm.
preventative health. So we're at this very sweet spot in terms of that. And to me, I think that's such a great way forward, rather than treating something after it's happened and trying to help people recover. It's expensive in terms of, actual financial cost, but also personal cost, cost of the individual. It's
Mm.
so much better to prevent it happening in the first place. And AI in health tech is really enabling that to happen. We've had these huge capital inflows. Like in Europe, it's been a record year in terms of inflow into health tech, and that is all around the AI and preventative side, which I think is a massive leap forward and a really great use of AI.
So do you, with your business, like, will you, like, are you taking it into corporates, like into organizations as well? Like, what is that what you're doing as part of this? Or like you work with leaders, you work with teams, you work with businesses. How are you, yeah, like in terms of if they're, where's my question? What's my question with this one? I'm probably just you talked around the burnout, the well-being and the money being spent. I think you said like 60, what was it, 60
Billion corporate, yeah,
in
corporate wellness.
corporate versus the however much trillion.
$1 trillion, yeah, $1 trillion
Yeah.
impact on
So
ill
when
health in the workplace.
do you come up against when you go, do you go, well, if you go into corporates with this, with your business and, the model that you've got and the results that you can get and the measurable results and this preventative way forward, right? Do you get much resistance from very any corporates where it's like, well, we've got a wellness program? Like, how does that kind of like, because there is such a disconnect, or is that what you're wanting to, is that what you're ultimately attempting to break down? Am I asking a good question
I
here? Is that
totally get what
making
you're saying.
sense?
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm totally
It's
good.
Monday
Yeah.
night. I'm like, my brain's like,
That's it. Yeah, I'm with you. Don't worry, I'm totally with you. So we're executing a go-to-market strategy where ultimately for us, yeah, the corporate wellness industry is a big target. And
yeah,
we want to help as many people as possible. We want the biggest impact. For us, the way into that is directly partnering with coaches in the first
that's
instance.
right.
So
Yeah,
I speak to someone like you, B. I spoke to an amazing burnout recovery specialist in Sydney at the end of last week. And the coaches that we're speaking with, they totally understand the problem and
yeah,
they're working with the leaders in these
yeah.
organizations. For us, straight away, we're partnering with these coaches and it's so much easier to get buy-in. It's easier to speak with them. So for us, we're partnering with them and we're there then helping the leaders in these organizations. So that's our first play to get that in place
Yeah,
and
that's so
fully
cool.
understood working. And then from there, we'll have that opportunity to then go into the corporate market in a much bigger way. And the positioning is, yeah, it's like, don't just buy your staff, a well-being app where they meditate and journal and it's passive and nobody uses it and it's a load of crap. Basically, sorry to anybody out there,
No, no,
but
no,
I'm
I
sure
get it.
there are a lot that aren't used. Generally a lot of that money is just that $60 billion. A lot of it's just thrown away because people don't engage. What we're building is completely next level. It's coaching at a scalable level, which is measurable as well. So for us, it's go via the coaches, and then from there, there's that corporate entry point after that.
I love it because it is such a tricky one to measure, isn't it? When you think about like from your own lived experience, my lived experience, and I don't know about you, but I get people that I haven't seen for a while, they look at me and they're like, "B, you look so different." And I'm like, "What? I don't feel like I look any different." Like someone said to me the other week, I looked whole. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" But like, do you know what I mean? But it's like because I hadn't seen me in such a long time. I look at pictures of myself back in my burnt, like full blown crazy days, and I'm like, "Oh God, I didn't look very healthy," like, but so to be able to have a health tech app like what you've got in terms of it is going within somebody, it's tangibly biomarkers, it's understanding like what's, the biology, the body, and then there's obviously the mind piece, right? These are real, tangible, measurable results that, it is that whole for me, that inside out transformation where it's like, this is where you were and this is where you are now. Um,
Yeah,
I
exactly
think
that.
that's brilliant because it's not easy to measure in terms of, you know what I mean? Like you can say, well, we did this, we did this, we did this, but then it's like, okay, but how is that? What's the ROI? Or, all the questions pop up. Mm.
Yeah, well, that's where it's really landing with coaches as well. So the coaches who understand their process, they know that their process works. And there's some amazing coaches out there doing some awesome
Yeah.
things. Having that measurability, what we give them is the insight that we provide. So there's the biomarker data where we see the physiology of a person, and you're seeing that continuously. And then we have the genetic profile that I talked about
Mm.
as well. But we also have the interactivity on a daily basis. So let's say a coach, perhaps they see their individual once a week or once every 2 weeks, sometimes even once a month. Then we have touch points continuously with the individual in between them, and everything's given to the coach on a separate platform. So when they come to speak to their client after, 2 weeks or a month, they have all of these coaching insights to see what's been going on with that individual. So, whatever they're feeding back to them, whether it's around, sleep or performance or even interpersonal issues, mood, habits, the coach has all of this detailed insight available to help them. And it just takes their coaching to absolutely the next level. Plus, you have this trending information to see how they're actually feeling. Are they getting better? And if
Yeah.
so, you can contribute it to your coaching program, which, there's nothing else that's available to do that right now. So it's a completely transformational way of working.
Wow, it's amazing. And you can sharpen your programs, right? You can get sharper and sharper with your programs based on, yeah,
Yeah.
it's bespoke, it's personalized, it's all of that. It's incredible.
Yeah.
When
Yeah, it's
you,
highly bespoke and personalized. And also, you mentioned ROI. So, obviously, companies paying for coaching, they want to see tangible results. They don't want the fluffiness. And as well, if you're coaching leaders and people who are CEOs, that C-suite, everybody's data driven. You have to be in a business, you need to be data driven. So this is data on the individual as well. So, that is it's yeah, it's something that people value highly.
oh my God, I've already got so many ideas listening to you and talking to you just with my stuff. And like, yeah, it's quite fascinating actually. Like just all the individuals and then a team and putting the individuals and how they're all the result. Yeah, anyway, that's that we can talk separately about that. But
Have
it's,
another chat,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. So where do you see the business? Like, what does it look like in, I don't know, 12 months time, Prescribe Life?
Yeah, we keep going. I mean, the big thing for us, we have specific metrics to hit in terms of building the business further. So we're going to do a seed round. We have a venture capital firm who is our lead investor from the pre-seed, and they've confirmed coming on for the next round. So we're going to do another raise towards the end of this year and then expand the team. The phase we're at the moment is we're at the early stages of commercialization, and but the market response, I can't tell you. As a founder, it's such a gratifying thing to feel. We're really, really resonating with the right people. So that's been fantastic. Built the team, and we're just continuing to grow really, and yeah, just keep on improving the product, keep building, and yeah, keep moving in the right direction. And yeah, I think that our go-to-market strategy seems to be in a good place. We'll keep tweaking that as we move, and then yeah, finish the raise probably around midway through. Yeah, probably like the end of next quarter of the next year.
That's exciting. And then how do you keep yourself in check now in terms of like obviously, we've talked about this as purpose driven. It's, you're a completely different person, but we spoke pre-show and we've both got that, work somewhat, well, I call it a bit of a work addiction in terms of like I don't know. Oh, I call it the dark side of flow actually in terms of, you get into something and then you lose complete track of time, but it's not just a few hours, it's actually oh, I've been doing something for like 6 or so hours and I've forgotten to get up. I've forgotten to go and have like a coffee or a tea or whatever. How do you keep yourself in check in this
Yeah,
stage of your business?
I've never heard the dark side of flow before, but I love that. Yeah, I'm gonna
Well,
I'm gonna
it's
steal that.
yeah, yeah.
Great.
I did it twice
Uh,
last week. Like I told you, I was 2 nights in a row. I was like, oh, I had to pull myself up for it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm absolutely fastidious with my own routine now. So I'm so mindful of not burning out again. And we mentioned this before the session here. I have this internal handbrake as well where I'm not able to operate at the same level in terms of hours. I'm much more productive now, but I can't, maybe I'll do, 1 or 2 days every now and again, which are 12 hours plus in the day. But generally, I don't go that long, and I don't work too much out of hours in terms of weekends. I have a young family as well, which keeps me focused on them. But in my working day, I just integrate things that are really important as well. I don't just work and work and work and work.
Yeah,
I'm sure I go out for a walk, go out for a run. Yeah, the concept of exercise stacking. So, even if I put a timer, I work really focused for 30 minutes and I take 2 or 3 minutes and, I'll do a set of 50 press ups or I'll do 100 star jumps. I'll do 60 seconds of shadow boxing, like whatever it is, bring up my energy, take that momentary break and then get back in. And the next 30 minutes are so much more
mm,
focused. Small things like that, take 10 minutes, meditate during the day. So if I do a 12-hour day, it's not like, oh, I've just sat on my desk all day doing nothing. I've actually done bits
yeah,
along the way, and it
yeah.
adds up. That in itself has been
I
absolutely
agree.
transformative. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. What would be one piece of advice you would give anyone who feels like they are on a plane and they wouldn't care if it crashed tomorrow in terms of the overwhelm and the like they know they're in this burnout mode? What would be one piece of advice you would give them?
Yeah, I mean, if anyone's in that situation or similar that I described, don't ignore it. I know this is such obvious advice, but really you have to pay attention. And if you don't, much worse things can happen. The best thing to do is take control of it. And if you don't feel able to fully take control of it, at least note it and get some external help, get some advice, get a coach, get a mentor, get somebody who can help you. Just reframe it. Sometimes it's around perspective and you need to be able to take a step back. And if you need someone to help you see that, then make sure that you take the time and invest a bit into ensuring you have that support.
Yeah, listen, don't ignore it. I ignored it for so long, and then it was a long way back, and it's like probably like there's be preventative. Don't ignore it is the thing. How do we find out more about Ollie? How do we find out more about Prescribe Life? How do we find out more about you?
Yeah, LinkedIn's probably the best way. So it's Oli Johnson on LinkedIn, OLI, and prescribelife.ai is the name of the business, but also the name of our web address as well. So you can find us there.
I love
And
it.
yeah, if there's particularly any coaches of high performers, if it sounds interesting, sounds like something that you want to find out more about, I'd love to jump on a call and have a chat with you.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Ali. Speaking of Monday night, I'm gonna go and do some active recovery myself and do a nice good old former Pilates class tonight on a Monday night. I need it. I think after the Monday, it's always good just to take it easy but thank you so much. It's been quite incredible listening to your story and what you're doing. And yeah, I can't wait to see where Prescribed Life goes next. So thank you for coming on the show today.
Got a pleasure, B. Thank you very much for inviting me. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.